So I'm out in the backyard today just checking out my lovely Phlox divaricata patch that I've got going on here, and I figured that I'd give you guys a nice lesson into some basic botany stuff, which is the four floral whorls, which sounds a little bit complicated, but it's a lot simpler once we break it down into its component aspects. So with the four floral whorls, we're going to start with the exterior and move our way into the interior. And I'm going to have to insert some pictures of the interior because it's not readily visible on Phlox divaricata. But regardless, we can still talk about this because it's a very important thing to get your grips on in botany. I would make the argument for. There's a lot of birds flying around right now, which is kind of distracting me, but I'm going to try to focus and bring it on through. So starting with the furthest exterior whorl, we'll look at this one, which isn't quite in bloom yet. The first whorl is that's the sepals, okay? And those are modified leaves that protect the developing flower, essentially. So you can see these nice little, they're kind of a greenish purple in Phlox divaricata, but these 5 modified leaves here wrapped around the developing flower, those are your sepals. So that's your outermost whorl, okay? Then moving out from there, we get into the petals, which is what everyone thinks about when we start talking about flowers. The petals are, of course, modified leaves, which generally serve the purpose of attracting pollinators and things of that nature. And you can get a whole wide array of different floral morphologies and stuff like that in terms of how petals are arranged. There's a lot of specialized vocabulary with that, but we won't get into that right now because we're just talking basics at this stage in the game. So as you can see, so we got sepals down at the base there. Sepals down at the base, followed by the petals. And then we get into the interior whorls, or the reproductive whorls, as I like to call them. On the third whorl, that would be the staminate whorl, which is the male portion of the plant. That's where you get your stamens, and that's where you get your anthers, which are connected to the base of the flower by the filament. And I'll throw in a nice picture of that because I've dissected one of these in the past. Throw that in there, nice. And then the central whorl is, of course, the female whorl, or the pistillate whorl. And that is composed of the stigma, the style, and the ovary. The stigma is the structure that's receptive to pollen. So a pollinator will come through, drop some pollen on the stigma. The sperm then travels down the style into the ovary, ultimately fertilizing the plant and allowing it to set seed. So there you go. There's your 4 floral whorls. You've got, of course, the sepals. You can see the sepals there at the base of the flower. I'm probably repeating myself a lot. You got the sepals, then you got the petals, then you got the staminate whorl, and then the pistillate whorl. And there you go. That's some of the basics of floral anatomy. So I hope that was helpful for us today. Now it's worth noting that Phlox divaricata and a lot of flowers are what gets referred to as a perfect flower. So what does that mean? The perfect flowers are those that have the male and female whorl together on the same flower. You can have monoecious imperfect flowers and dioecious imperfect flowers as well. And so a monoecious imperfect flower, a good example of that would be like your Euphorbia correlata, which I'll insert some pictures of here to kind of further illustrate that. So a monoecious imperfect flower, monoecious means one house. So that means that the male and female flowers, they occur separately but on the same plant, okay? And then you can get into dioecious flowers, an example of which would be like Phalictrum dioecium, which I don't think I have any pictures of, but just bear with me as I explain it. That means you get male and female flowers on separate plants, is what dioecious means. That's Greek or Latin for 2 houses. So there we go. Phlox divaricata, the perfect flower, and in my opinion, a perfect way to illustrate the 4 floral whorls. So I hope this was nice and informative for us today. I don't really know. I don't know what just made that flower shake. Hope it was something cool.